see a lot of students there to give their opinions on this. And these are a few of the slides that will be shown at that. So that's where this information is coming from. Okay, should introduce that first. Essentially, Rusty, I know, met with this group. Some of you may have been in the room last year when he met with this group to talk about this. And we were prepared to start this back up in the fall. And a couple of other issues basically sucked all the air out of the room, particularly any of you that have followed the saga of trying to create a graduate college. That basically took everybody's attention on the Senate, and nothing got done. So basically, I was asked to put off the undergraduate studies big events until spring. So even though this stuff was ready last fall, we put it off. So down here, this table is the primary thing that we expect will draw some discussion, which is we're currently at 47%. If we raise it to 3.5, it'll go down to 37%. If we raise it to 3.67, we'll put it down to 27%. Rusty's plan had been to ask for 3.5 and show this number to scare people. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. We really want feedback on this, essentially, from the students. As I have put it, I don't care. Okay? As a faculty member, it just doesn't matter to me, and that's kind of the way a lot of the senators feel. We would like this to be an honor for you to get onto the dean's list, but it doesn't really affect our lives in any way. So we think that this looks kind of silly, because we just think that having it just be meaning above average doesn't look very good. I don't really have a strong opinion on where it should be. I don't have a sense that the dean's list means something intrinsic, you know, the top 10% or something. I will tell you that a few things that have been brought up may be discussed, one of which is having it vary by college. We did the research on that and discovered there actually isn't a whole lot of variation by college, okay? And even in the UGS meetings, it leads to discussions, you know, these slight little differences. My students are brighter than yours, I see. It's like, you guys are easy graders. You know, it leads to discussions that we just don't particularly want to have, because there really are pretty comparable across the colleges. One thing that may also come up is the dean's list rate for seniors goes to about 66%. And some of that is seniors. We have weeded out everybody who's not really suitable for college by that point, of course. But also, you're pretty much, as a senior, taking courses in your major that you like. And so people do better. So this information will be discussed on Monday the 11th. And this, you know, set of numbers and thinking about what this means and what this should mean for the students, this is the main thing that I want feedback from the students on. And you know, I am concerned that we get a wide audience here, and that, you know, I have this sneaking suspicion that the people in this room who are active in student government aren't the sort of people who are going to get dropped off the dean's list from these criteria. So, you know, do try to think expansively about what this means to the students. A lot of the students, because it becomes more common when they're a senior, that is something that they really aspire to. That they will work their way through all the nasty courses and eventually get the way into the courses that they love within their major and do better. But anyway, this table right here is the primary thing that I think is going to lead to the discussion, is what is an appropriate percentage of the students to be getting this honor? And it should be considered an honor. Okay? And I'll take questions on any of this after this. This is a long, ugly slide. You can distribute these if people want to be able to read them more carefully later. Grade forgiveness is a tricky thing. It requires a lot of policies that I didn't think about until we started looking at the range of grade forgiveness policies. What it amounts to is this. You all know that if you do badly in a course, you flunk a course that you need for something, or you get below a C- in a class that you need more than a C- for your major, you retake the course. So, considering, my meteorology majors, they have to take calculus courses. Like a lot of the majors that have to take calculus courses, they don't always do all that well the first time. You may have heard rumors of this. So if you get an F in 241, you have to retake it. You get a C in 241 and you can move on. At that point, you've earned 4 credits toward your graduation. You've fulfilled one requirement. But that effect is if you've got 8 credits of D on your GPA. And the idea of grade forgiveness is to provide a mechanism by which if you retake a course and improve your grade, you still don't keep the credits, but that other course, that earlier course, drops out of your GPA. Okay? And what we discovered is there are an awful lot of different criteria, and so I can come back to this if people want, and I want to get this in here so that people will have it to look at. This is our list of comparator schools, slightly shortened names so I can type them, and I arranged it in sort of a least forgiving to most forgiving with a few people that don't make sense. And currently we have no grade forgiveness. Essentially every run of your course, every run of a course that you take counts into your GPA. A number of schools offer grade forgiveness that you can only do in the first year. Some in the second year, some schools any class through seniors. One of those schools, I think this is probably an oversight, listed that basically you can replace an A+ if you want to. We don't even have an A+. A lot of the schools require that this is either probationary or D or lower kind of grades. Many schools allow any grade to be replaced. So if you're like really passionate about graduating with a 4.0, you can retake a course with an A-. And I think that's kind of silly. We shouldn't do it, but it's a possibility. So this is our current status. We're up here with those that don't have anything. We've had, in 2012, there was a fairly significant effort to bring this to the Senate, and one of my problems is I haven't gotten any straight answers from anybody on why it failed in 2012. Why it didn't go through a long time ago so it would be here for your whole career. So that's on there as the 2012 proposal. We have sort of a range of what we think we can maybe get through the Senate this year. And so this sort of, I basically kind of arranged this so that the proposals we were doing would be kind of visually in the middle. We're trying to be more generous than we currently are now, but we're not allowing everybody to do it. It's really something to do in your first 2 years. And the reason, the drive for it, is coming, I would say, from Chris Lucier's office, who's our enrollment manager, shall we say. We have a retention issue here. We are trying to make it so that students, particularly in the first years, who mess up, have some chance at redemption. Some of you know that UD is not a terribly transfer-friendly school as we compare ourselves to others. And one of the things that we have is, whether you're coming in here as a freshman or transferring in, UD can take you by surprise. Less so than in the old days. The business about the Dean's List, to flag back to that, is because of grade inflation, of course. When I started teaching here, the average undergraduate GPA was 2.7. Now it's 3.3. Okay, that's a fairly significant amount of grade inflation. But we're still kind of harsh on a lot of introductory courses. For example, in my college of Earth, Ocean, and Environment, so it's a very small sample, I was told by one of the advisors that the average grade on Math 241, I use that as an example, the average grade is D in our college. We have some unfriendly courses. I don't want to pick on the math department entirely, but they're used to that. So we are going to basically bring this up for discussion. There are a lot of notes here on the things that are covered in this previous slide about all the different things that can go wrong or that can vary. Where do you set the limit? Is it C minus or lower, or is it D plus or lower? My sense was anything C minus or lower is giving you deficit points, so that's where we should allow the forgiveness. Jeff Palmer's point was D plus or lower means this covers the majority of courses that cannot be used in your major. You know, when the courses have a limit on what can be used in the major, it's usually a C minus limit. How many courses should be allowed? 2 or 3 courses is what's being brought up, not just every course that you've ever done. Usually you can only do 1 repeat attempt per course, and one group of students some years ago did a project coming up with a version of this on expunging grades from the transcript completely. Essentially, I cannot find any examples of schools where repeating a course means the old grade goes away completely. That is, it's still there on the transcript. People are going to see that you tanked your first time through calculus. But it's going to go out of the GPA. That's the main thing. We're not taking it off your transcript, we're taking it out of the GPA, is what we're trying to do here. And again, the assistant deans, the people who do, and the people who do retention really believe that this will help us with our retention. My kind of take on it is, I think that this will help get rid of the notorious L grade, listener. Okay, I have seen a lot of students do badly. You come up drop day in the middle of the semester. Now I'm going to switch it to an L, and then I can sit through the classes. Of course, you never see them again. Okay? How many of you have really attended a class after you changed? Well, you probably never changed to L. But you know, I mean, you get the point. It basically means you give up on the class in the middle. What this process would encourage you to do in that situation is stick it out and go down in flames. Okay? You're going to have to take it again anyway, but surviving through, you just might luck out and get a C minus and be done. And if you get a D or an F, you have at least gone through the whole thing and gone to the final and learned what you can. So that's kind of one of my bugs, is I don't particularly like the L grade. I don't think it really means anything. So, as with the Dean's List thing, this is more of a student-driven thing, or needs, not student-driven, but student-oriented thing. We need students to care about this, to buy in, and I could really, really be helped by having a lot of students show up at the open meeting and point out about how much this helped them. Now, it has been asked, well, will this contribute to the grade inflation problem? Our registrar did a little bit of research on that and essentially went through a lot of records of people who have now graduated and what they were doing 3 and 4 years ago, finding that if they recalculated GPAs of people who graduated over the last couple of years based on a policy like this in place, I mean, people had repeated a course for credit, and they recalculated the GPAs with this in place, and it changed things about 1/10 of a point. It's not actually a huge deal on overall GPAs by any means. It will do a slight raising of it, but it particularly lets people who get into trouble early find a way to dig out. You know, you start out your freshman fall semester with a couple of D's and F's in the hard 4-credit lab science courses that you take in the sciences. You can do math. You know what kind of a GPA pit you have dug and how long it's going to take you to crawl out of it. And so that's what we're trying to get rid of. And just one more comparison slide on there. Basically, you know, no grade forgiveness is 9, so you'll see that on all things. And this is sort of the distribution of restricting it to early classes or recent transfers, or not restricting it to early classes and recent transfers. Most people do allow it beyond freshmen. Any previous grade versus only doing below probation grades is roughly evenly split. And then there's several different attitudes on how many of these courses you can do. And this is based on the comparator class. This particular list of universities that you're seeing here is being used by various committees of the universities as sort of our aspirational comparators. It's a good list of schools. And it's, we are proud to be on a list like this, shall we say. It's a bunch of decent sized, good sized schools that are all relatively large, have big PhD programs, that kind of stuff. So that's what I came prepared to say, and I'm happy to take any questions. Mostly I'm trying to get people to come to our session in a week and a half. Are there any questions?
So when specifically is the meeting that you're looking people to go?
Okay, if you've never been to a Senate open hearing, it's a standard Senate open hearing. So it will start with presentations that I will have. Well, Rusty Lee will be presenting Dean's List stuff, and I will be presenting this a little bit later. We will try to announce a schedule for it, but I suspect we're going to have a time of do the Dean's List first, have discussion about that, and then go to grade forgiveness and try to have an announced time on that. So if you care about one issue or the other, you can come to what matters to you. But presentations like this, explaining the background and what we're looking for, will be relatively short, followed by time for questions and comments from anybody. The moderator of open hearings by definition is President-elect of the Senate, so Matt Robinson will be there kind of being the MC. But it really is asking for student input. So the presentation like I'm doing here is the short part, and the long part is getting people to comment. Usually we ask people, if it's a really, really popular open hearing, then the moderator will put on, please keep your comments down to 2 minutes, and nobody gets to comment a second time until everybody's had a chance. If it's an unpopular open hearing and we don't have very many people, then people can go on it late. I know that there are a few faculty in the aging curmudgeon point of view who think, well, we're just making it easier for the students, I had to walk uphill both ways through the snow to get through my classes. These students could suffer. I'm trying to suppress that attitude, okay? Because, as I advise meteorology majors and environmental science majors that all have to take all these introductory science classes. So I have seen the pain, okay? I'm kind of running the charge on this for people I have advised over the last quarter of a century. But yeah, that's roughly how it goes. You can come and, you don't have to talk, but if you just come and listen, maybe learn how these things go. But it'll be, like I said, 2 parts. We're going to treat these as 2 separate issues, put them in the same open hearing.
So it's next week?
It is Monday, March 11.
We'll send out an email with all.
There will be a general emailed announcement to everyone, yes. And you will, I'm still not necessarily sure I've got everything corrected on these, but you will see slides that look like this and just a couple more that kind of paint out what we're trying to propose. Other questions? Yes, Rita?
I know a lot of people that want to replace grades because of the grad school, and particularly like classes that account into your science GPA for a lot of them. And I know some schools even won't accept anything less than a D- for some courses. So is there any reason why you couldn't replace any type of grade that has to be like a C or a D or lower?
That is an excellent thing to bring up in there, because a lot of our, a lot of the more curmudgeonly folks feel like this should only be a way of preserving it from for people who are, dropping out. And the idea that you need to boost things up for graduate school in some cases is something that needs to be brought up so that people recognize that. I went to graduate school at one of those any class, any grade schools. I got here and I did not realize that that wasn't normal. That is a very good point, is that there are reasons to raise grades that are already higher than a C minus. And you can see that a lot of these, or that list up there, allows any grade, as does, Maryland allows any grade, but you gotta do it right away. Okay, that is a very good point.
I don't know if that maybe came up in the committee.
That actually is stuff that is a very good point, and it has not been something that we've brought up so far. A certain amount of the discussion and the push from the registrar is the possibility of thinking of this as incremental. That is, if this is what it takes to get something passed, then we have a tradition of having grade forgiveness. And I personally really don't like it being first semester only. How many first semester freshmen are you aware of that are like in Italy? They don't really get their first on-campus semester until they're actually here. My proposal was freshman, sophomore recent transfers. Once again, I'm thinking about my advisees. They are still taking calculus and physics and chemistry courses well through into their second year. So, my particular bug about all those introductory science courses that they take, it fits into the sophomore bit. And realizing that you need a better grade in something for graduate school would be another reason for having it be any grade, having it be any time. Other questions? Yes?
Assuming this does get passed and go into action soon, would it apply to people who have already failed a class and then retaken it in the past? Or is it just if you take it later? I'm sure the details will actually be on the
That's
but
a really good point. That's something we have thought about. One of the things that we talk about in these things where it has to be a freshman or recent transfer is, do you have to retake the class while you're still a freshman or in your cert? And we've kind of come to the conclusion that you should be able to take it anytime. Is this retroactive? I've not really thought about that. And we could, it's kind of like I said, it's whatever we can get through the Senate. If this just has to start with baby steps and then hope that as people get used to this culture, then a few years down the road it may become more expansive, that's what we'll do. We want to get something going. I have not thought about the idea of taking, retaking classes next year that you've taken this year if this policy goes into effect. So it would be against the traditions of how we run the catalog to allow that. It would require us to put in some special language, because you are covered by the catalog that you entered your major under. And so this would, unless we make some special dispensation on it, we will, just for it to work for people who are here next year taking classes next year, but aren't freshmen next year, we will have to put in some special language on that. Yeah. So very good thoughts. Yes?
I want to know if in the discussion it's come up kind of the idea for extending it past freshman, sophomore, for just considering students who go through a certain crisis. So students who have a health crisis, say their junior year, and they have one or two courses that they just bombed just because of that time, and just because they've kind of made it past that point.
That would be another good reason, and like I said, personally, I'm on the generous side of things here, and it's another good thing to bring up at the meeting, because I think that the faculty tend to not really see these issues as easily, and you know a lot more people. You've seen people go through everything. One of the things that will get brought up in the proposal for this, the longer bit of text that I didn't bring, is that our current system involving expunging your entire semester with the Kirk Committee, which is what's occasionally used in the cases of medical issues, is an all or nothing proposition. We don't have any way of, letting you basically wipe out anything but the entire semester with that Kirk review. I would, by the way, point out that it can be worse than what we have. There are some schools up on that list of no grade forgiveness where you have to petition to do the retake, and you may not be allowed. But if you get your D minus, that's your grade. Live with it. I find that to be evil. I'm not going to bring that up as a possibility in the general open hearing in case somebody thinks it's a good idea. Other questions? Yes.
Beyond SGA, what other groups did you reach out to share this with?
Besides faculty, there was an open hearing and it was widely discussed in 2012 in the old one. On this one, besides faculty groups, the people that are really buying into it are the assistant deans, the people who have to advise these students and do the senior checkout kind of stuff. But in terms of other groups, I mean, a fair question to be asked here, should this apply to graduate students? Generally, we haven't even gone there. You know,
I meant like coming out and speaking about it.
Oh.
Is SGA the only group you've done that with, or are there
yes,
others?
in terms of coming around and speaking to an outside group, this is the only group I've come to.
You might want to consider chatting with their review as well, just because they tend to have opinions about stuff.
Review has opinions on things. It never occurred to me. Yeah. Generally speaking, the review has been pretty good at coming to these open hearings and covering them when we have something going on. And so that, you know, they will know that this is happening. And my guess is when the announcement for this goes out, that, you know, proposals for this are going to be on the table. I would assume this is something that undergrads will be interested in. You know, I'm coming to you as the representatives, hoping you folks will get the word out. Yeah, ma'am.
So if this gets passed, how soon would it be in effect?
If we can pass it this spring, it will be in the F-19 catalog. Yeah. And if we can't pass it this spring, depends on why it doesn't pass. If it doesn't pass because a whole lot of faculty in the Senate are adamantly opposed to doing this, it'll be like another 7 years like it was last time. We'll have to wait till people leave, temperatures die down and all that stuff. But what we're doing in both of these is for the open hearings, we're kind of going in with a range of possibilities on the table and not a firm policy. That's why I've given you the range here. I've just shown you the table on the GPA stuff for the dean's list. With, you know, I think something in here is basically about as much as we're going to be able to get passed, as much as I think the idea of any grade and any class level is a good idea. I suspect that on the GPA thing, 3.5 is people don't want to take too big of a step yet, but I don't know. So we're going to bring it to the open hearing that those things are open and can be discussed. And then UGS is going to have to try and read the tea leaves of what we've heard and try and figure out what we think we can get passed. You have another question, Fred?
You actually answered it. I was gonna ask if this is coming in like as a state policy. But I do have another question. Just out of curiosity, how did this conversation begin and like how does this idea kind of form? I don't know if there's like any repercussions from how our policy is now, like if maybe employers or other schools were noticing that our grades are inflated, you know, or when you show up to a job interview and you have 8 semesters of dean's list, is that like questionable?
That's a question I wish I could answer better, but that business I said at the beginning, both of these projects started last year when I was just a member of UGS, and we talked about them in the committee meetings briefly, and it's from that I got the impression that, I don't know where the thing is for the dean's list. I think it's more a matter of if another couple of years of grade inflation and it'll be more than 50% on the dean's list, and it will just feel bad. It's just something that feels wrong about that. The grade forgiveness, I'm quite sure, was pushed by our enrollment management people, like Vice President Chris Lucier, I don't know if you've ever dealt with him, and the assistant deans, feeling that this was a good idea. And the moment it got brought up, again, I jumped on it because of my 30 years experience advising majors in these hard sciences that start out with some bad horses. Yes?
I had a similar question actually about the dean's list thing.
Mhm.
Like how much of that number is like an indicator of the strength of like UD, and like, because thinking of it from a student perspective, like sure, like that number probably shouldn't be at like 50%, But on the other hand, like, I'm a student, like, I love throwing the fact that I was on the dean's list on my resume every semester. So, like, as a student, like, what's the incentive to support that? Besides, like, feeling the
A lot of it was trying to be kind of in line with things. That is, basically none of our comparator schools, none of the schools on the other list have a GPA limit for dean's list that low. And when we changed it, at 3.25, going from 3.25 to 3.3 back in '98, that was essentially taking it from somewhere in the 30s that people thought was too high down to 25%. So we're having a little bit of a lot of grade inflation. We're having a little bit of dean's list inflation being allowed here too. If we go into the middle here and bring it from nearly 50% down to something over a third. How does that speak to how we compare to other schools? Honestly, having read a lot of graduate school applications, I don't pay any attention to the lists of honors on the resume. I'm looking at your transcript. I want to see that you got decent grades in the courses that matter to me. I'm looking at your transcript, your personal statement, that sort of thing. And I always tell potential graduate students, the hard part isn't to get me to read your personal statement. The hard part is getting me to read the second sentence of it. It's just a little word of warning to you all. Some people read more than, I basically can usually tell in a paragraph that I don't particularly feel like reading this. I'm getting most of my information from the transcript anyway. Dean's list, everybody applying to grad school has a lot of honors. Dean's list is not that big of a deal to me. That's me evaluating things. You know, your mileage may vary. Honors and awards that really are a gold star on your application would be things like getting fellowships. And the biggest gold star you can have in a research graduate school application is, did you work on a senior thesis or do research of some sort? The dean's list is just not all that visible. Too common, probably, is what I would say.
We'll take one or two more questions if anyone has one. All right, well.
Okay, well, thank you all for listening.
Try and spread the word about the hearing.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be finishing writing up the stuff that Karen also can send around to announce the meeting, because these all have to be announced at least a week in advance, so I've only got another couple of days to get that. So it should be in the next few days that you'll be getting the general announcement about the open hearing. Okay,
Thanks so
thank
much.
you.
Thanks for coming. Okay. Thanks, guys, for all your questions. Okay, so now we're just gonna hear from Kevin about a few things SGA related, and we'll hear from Joe.
Awesome. Hope you are all having a great semester so far. Just things here. I'm going to do a quick recap of the semester review that was sent out in December, because my apologies, I could not make it to that meeting. I will make it very brief though. Find it, there we go. So, and for everyone who read it, probably the 2 or 3, thank you. Basically, to start off, as far as advising and registration goes, all colleges will be on the Blue Hind Success Collaborative by June this year, which is basically the system by which you can contact your advisor. Basically, anything advising the registration, you can go there. So it'll be good. I think arts and science is the one big one that has taken the longest. So sorry to basically everyone here. Central advising site is still available to you guys though who are in arts and sciences. So that is still great. Increasing the number of 8 a.m. courses because classrooms are filling up so quickly, because the university, in my opinion, may I just state again, my opinion, that the university is over-enrolling at this time. They will be moving a lot more classes to 8 a.m.s, as well as a lot more classes to 1.5-hour blocks on Monday, Wednesdays. So look forward to that, unless you're graduating, which good for you. Thank you so much to the work of Shane Dorsey, I almost said Dawson, you're not a YouTuber. Hopefully by registration this year, or this semester, the syllabus database will be online. How many professors will have taken part in that? Who knows? We'll definitely push for it though, and the push will be coming from the provost's office. Moving on to the library, there's hopefully a renovation that will be coming in the near future. And may I remind you that near future in UD terms, or kind of any large school terms, means the next 2 years, hopefully. So hopefully next year, hopefully over the summer, but there should be a renovation taking place on the second and third floor, or at least one of the two areas in the area that faces onto the green, which will basically mean there's more study space and more kind of common space in the library for many of the people in here who know that going to the library, especially during finals time, is absolutely useless. So hopefully, I know I'm being real negative today, it's been a long one. They are looking to, they're looking to the possibility of increasing hours in the library. No definite answers on that so far. They are also looking to expand hours in some of the academic buildings, as far as either putting key entries onto buildings, which anyone who's engineering, some of the buildings have that already, or something like what's the cathedral area? I was forgetting.
Oh, Doherty Hall.
Doherty Hall in
Yeah.
Tremont.
They're thinking about making that.
24 hours. So basically, it would be the door that leads into the rest of Durant would be locked, but that side door by the garage would be open. Still have to look into kind of security reasons for that. Housing, we all know the towers is goodbye. I don't think anyone feels bad about the towers going because they're worse for wear, but the fact that 2,000 beds will be gone, and even though they're bringing on the courtyards, that's only 1,500 beds. Do the math. 500 beds are still left over that they don't know if they're going to be able to fill. They've been working to allow students who signed their housing contracts to exit their contracts. I believe the window for that has already ended, but housing reached out to anyone who's in that kind of grouping. They might have to look into alternatives if there are still people who are signed up they can't house, which could possibly entail a master lease, which would basically be the school leasing out a floor or two of an off-campus provider. That is looking very much like a non-favorable perspective from several different people within housing. It's very controversial, so who knows whether that'll actually move forward. This year it was approved for construction that this year a new dorm would be built. That had to be delayed because of the fire at McKinley, and there just aren't the funds for it available. So that project has been put on hold, and it's currently under review as to whether they will actually take that decision up again, up at the board level. So that is to be continued. We will probably know by March or April if it will be moved forward with. And those plans are already ready, so my hope is that the approval is literally the last thing that they need. They can move forward with it as soon as possible. The review so the review published a piece Tuesday that said that Cypher was shutting down. I discussed with a review member that is not a total 100% possibility. It most likely looks like Cypher and Brown will not be shutting down next year. They will probably wait to do that renovation, but that will take a year once the trigger has been pulled. No matter what, though, there will be no doubles in upper level housing. So anyone who's going to upper level, don't have to worry about that. Parking and busing, I I've had some people scoff and laugh over this subject, even though the survey that we put out, the most negative field by far was parking at UD and people's frustrations with it, especially commuter students, especially students who have to go from either North Campus to South Campus, or drive a lot of distance, or students who work, or just a lot of students in general, so. I'm a little angry about that point, sorry. Losing professionalism. So the reason why also people are angry is the price of parking. The reason why it's so high is because parking is a self-sufficient branch. So everything that they have to pay out in busing and maintaining parking garages, meters, all of that comes from parking tickets and parking fees. So the idea of implementing a parking, like a fee on your tuition bill, it wouldn't be tuition, it'd be a fee, has been brought up. Fees for the near future are all going towards increasing the athletics fees. So as for the time being, it looks like parking is going to be extremely expensive. So my apologies for that bad news. We'll see though, there could be a change of heart this coming April. We've definitely let the EVP's office know that there needs to be more parking, and any parking that might be destroyed in the near future and near here, there should be parking to supplement the less parking. As far as busing, there were 6 new buses added this year, 4 last semester, 2 this semester, and 4 buses taken offline. So basically, 4 really old, terrible buses are gone, and 6 shiny, brand new ones are online. And I know that they added at least 1, if not 2, to the north-south loop. And I was just talking to Nick the other day, who you were saying that it's pretty reliable now, right? Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that. Is it doing better?
I would say it's better, you know, but it's still the same way as, you know, if you try to catch a bus to your 10:10 right before your 10:10, you're not gonna get off the bus, but that's to be accepted.
Also, after like 5 o'clock, there's only like 1 bus running for the academy and like 2 for the college, and like people still have classes, and like I can't wait an hour if I miss the academy bus.
Great. Those have all been brought up to the EVP's office and to the director of auxiliary services, who's in charge of transportation. They are looking into they should be transitioning the busing app this semester from what I gathered the last semester. I will have, as always, more to tell you April-ish. Student centers, as we all know, the campus is undergoing kind of a master plan review. Basically, the overview of the plan is trying to connect transportation between central and south, north and central, as well as create more of an east-west flow, since it kind of can be a little disjointed if you're trying to get from, say, Cornell to Perkins or wherever you're traveling. A new student union is also being investigated. Just a heads up though, it would probably be about 10 years out. So the most optimistic projection I've been given is about 6. So, but it's really fun that, as you guys have probably seen walking through Perkins or Trabant, the displays of what kind of you guys like, what interests you, and there, as kind of the designs are built out more and more, there'll be kind of more and more public intake. So hopefully we'll at least get to leave a stamp on the future, a bright stamp, not a bad. Eating times, they're aware that especially in kind of non-dining halls, the eating times can be inconvenient, especially in Perkins. They are looking into it, catering is looking into it. We'll have to see that. Counseling is moving, so student counseling is moving from the 2nd floor of Perkins to Warner Hall, which is literally, it's right next to Laurel in case anyone isn't here right now. Right over there, if you are in the room. And that'll be occurring in fall of 2020, so I believe it's next summer. This summer will be partially renovated, and then next summer they'll move in, or next year they'll move in. 2 years. So, The grad college, I'm sure Nick will talk about this, it passed. Grad students are, I'll actually let you discuss that point. Trabant Theater, movies are finally free now, so instead of having to go pay like a $1 or $2 charge, which is useless, you can just go if there's a cool movie, so that'll be fun. As far as sexual assault and consent, Jacob Wasserman, Gianna, and I finally met with the university's governmental relations committee, and our plans on kind of creating state legislation to go forward is slowly moving on its way. The idea currently is to have a lot of the lobbying done by the end of this year, and hopefully if we don't hit too many roadblocks, we'll definitely hit no's, but hopefully not too many. That will go forward next winter when the chamber reopens. We'll have to see that. Whoever's president next year will keep you posted. There has also been a new Title IX coordinator who's been placed full-time. She's an interim, but there's actually a full-time Title IX coordinator, which is great for anyone who needs that assistance. So I have 3 things to run by you. I know this is going long, apologies. So first thing is, if you're in one-on-ones with me, I discussed the possibility of adding a 3rd monthly meeting to our Senate meetings. So as it stands, we have Senate Senate, which we're in right now, and then monthly, when we have our speakers. The 3rd meeting would be devoted as a branch meeting. Because from talking to a lot of senators, from the VPs, I think we all know that it can be tough to find time outside of Wednesday nights when everyone's available. And so the hope was that we could kind of find a 3rd time where everyone's all in one room, but it wouldn't necessarily be in a tiered space. It would be more in a collaborative space in which you could spend time with your branch, as well as spend time within your caucus to kind of get more ideas flowing and to get more assistance to some of the newer senators. I'll pause on that one. Thoughts, concerns, getting there?
Idea. Could people that show up to the 3rd branch meeting, could that count as their office hours? Because I feel like asking people to show up 3 times during the month and then also commit an hour in the office might be a little much.
I think for that week, or
I guess
completely.
so, yeah.
I think we can definitely look into that, but yeah, that certainly seems reasonable.
And then will this also take the place of branch meetings? Could a branch meeting be at the same time as that?
What do you mean?
Like instead of having monthly Senate and then the 3rd monthly meeting,
It wouldn't.
and a branch meeting, you know what I mean?
Hopefully the majority of the work would be taking place in the branch meeting, and there's always the opportunity for more kind of one-on-ones and all of that, but hopefully that would be the branch meeting.
You want all the branches to be at the same place, right?
The idea was, yes, to have them all in the same place, so that if there's kind of cross-branch coordination needed, that discussion could move forward.
We could send out a survey. So look for a survey about this idea with more details explaining exactly how it would run in the coming week, just for time's sake.
Also, promise that I'm going to make to you, every meeting that I'm in with an administrator will have one of you in it. So I know in years past it's always been, we've had to move against the current of kind of the cabinet's doing a lot of stuff, but the information doesn't trickle down to you guys. And kind of the simplest way to do that is to make sure that instead of finding meetings where, oh, you guys are kind of interested in this and you can bring us along, we're actively bringing you guys along so that you're involved in kind of key areas that you're interested in, but maybe more ideas come just from you being present in those meetings. And that's all of me. Any questions?
Shannon on all things Newark City Council.
So this is all from Megan, because on Monday I was battling the flu. But quickly to go off a couple things that you made, Kevin, as far as like the busing, the city has been considering, making that available to Newark residents. There are some universities that have done that throughout, the states. I know Oklahoma State University is one of them. So they've been looking into that as a possibility. And a couple city council members are looking to, I believe like on the Rodney Dickinson campus area over there in West Campus, of adding more off-campus housing just to provide more people places to live. But as more information comes, I will let you guys know with that. So everything, there's an unruly social gathering ordinance that's going through the council. They had their first reading of it last night, which is just like to get it out in the open for people to comment. Their next reading is gonna be on Monday, the 11th. And so if you had read anything about that in the review, whatever you read was wrong. So basically it's, she uses some very passionate words. She says, Towson, passed an ordinance in 2016 increasing fines and community service on the organizers of out of control parties and also on landlords who had repeated violations. We are not mimicking their ordinance without landlord provisions. There's no direct impact on attendees of parties. No one is arrested or prosecuted because this is a civil citation. A party is considered unruly in an unruly social gathering if it ticks off 3 things on a long list of characteristics, many of which are other criminal acts which could be prosecuted currently anyway, regardless under law already on the books. It's not really seeming any gatherings illegal that wouldn't already be illegal, but just increasing the penalties. Again, the review published an idiotically incorrect bill, and I'd be happy to take any questions on its contents. So we all know how Megan feels about that one. But yeah, so that was really it. Just a couple other ordinances that don't really affect the university. But she and I will definitely present more information to the Senate after the 11th. Any questions?
Just to clear something up, what do you mean by giving the UD buses to Newark residents? Because it doesn't really, require your ID to get on.
Yeah, so they would, they just said, as a way for people to get around, like this area specifically, they would open it up to like Newark residents, and they've been looking into different ways of making that feasible. I don't believe any hard plans have been in the works, but that's just something that they've been talking about. And when Kevin mentioned that, it sparked my memory.
I can also say to that, it has been discussed within auxiliary. It can possibly look like city residents buying a badge they can use on the bus. Who knows though? It does not look like, it's definitely not a plan that is concrete in any way.
Yeah, there was no formal plan written up. It was just ideas that were being discussed and research being presented to the council.
This unruly gathering ordinance, do you know if that's something they're voting on soon? Like, is that gonna take place?
Their
take effect
second
soon, or?
Their second reading is going to be on March the 11th, and usually after their second reading, that's when they can begin to vote. And I know that at the last meeting Megan and I attended, they made a plan to change parking vouchers in Newark, and that was put in place within the month. So I can do more research. Once they post the minutes, you can read and send information.
Yeah, I was just curious about timing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely keep everyone updated on that. Anything else? Yes.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm actually gonna turn this light on because I'm falling asleep. Okay, now Nick, do you wanna talk a little bit about Faculty Senate?
Sure.
Alright guys, so Faculty Senate was a long one, but it was really all about the graduate college for the most part. Before that happened though, they did pass a couple changes to courses and majors, a long list, about like 50 of them. If you wouldn't want me to list those, we'd be here all night. But one thing they did do was they removed all history language majors. So you know we can do that. It was like a history foreign language hybrid. And there was 14 different ones. and they had a total enrollment of 0 students this semester. So they felt that probably nobody would miss it. So those are gone. And like I mentioned, the big topic for the night was the graduate college. So we spent most of our night discussing that, talking about how it was going to be established. At the end of the day, it was established. However, they are just draft bylaws. So it now is on the university pretty much to actually create the college. It is more of a blessing for faculty senate for them to move forward with those steps. One big thing to note is that any future changes to the graduate college or its bylaws will be done by a graduate council, which they've created, and they'll be made up of a mixture between faculty members, student representatives, and some of those other auxiliary people like deans, provosts, people like that. One of the big things to note is that they gave 7 seats for graduate students, 3 of which are voting, and 4 of which are non-voting, which is actually kind of awesome because in the faculty senate, there's only 4 total undergraduate students, or 2 total undergraduate students and 2 graduate students. So there's actually better representation within this council than there is in the faculty senate, which I think is a step forward. One thing that I did bring up is I made a motion to amend the council for the graduate college, which would then add an undergraduate voting member to that council. Ultimately, that was shot down. They felt that more student input, I guess, was unnecessary, or at least to go about it that way. It is something, however, we are looking at ways to push forward on, because we believe that graduate education has just as much effect on undergraduate education, and we should have some representation in those meetings, whether that becomes a voting member or non-voting members that are able to at least voice their opinion. So they're the big things when it comes to graduate college. I don't know if Kevin wants to add anything else specifically.
I had a quick coffee with the grad student government president, and we talked pretty briefly about it, and they seemed pretty amenable to the idea of having a 4+1 representative. I doubt the faculty senate would move for voting member, but to try and get kind of, especially undergrads who will be part of the grad college, that was kind of about the place that I could kind of edit to.
Yeah, and that's something that Corinne actually had brought up at some point when we were debating the graduate college, and the makeup is there are 4+1 students that are affected by both of these, and their education now as an undergrad will be affected in the years to come. So we are hoping to push forward with that and get some representation in this new council. Speaking to another thing that has to do with SGA and the faculty senate, goes to the proposal we passed a couple months back, the Student Death Notification Act by John Cohill. He's not here tonight, but pretty much that bill would notify all the student body if a student was deceased and had passed within 1 week of the passing, and then there would be resources available in those class periods following the passing, and the notification for students for mental health reasons. That is currently in committee, in the Student Life Committee, and we are debating the steps forward with that. We're going to actually be discussing that later tonight with the cabinet, and we will get back to you guys come next Senate. Where we're going. Other than that, faculty senate is how it is. Some of you guys are in some of the committees. I ask that you continue to go. If you have any trouble and you cannot make the meetings anymore because your schedule has changed, please shoot me an email. I'm trying to do the best I can to keep attendance. I'm not in all of the committees, so I'm not 100% on the docket with everything, but if you guys are on a committee, please continue to go to those. We need our representation to be heard all semester. Any questions about anything I mentioned, faculty senate committees, anything like that?
Any news on how far along the syllabus database is within UGS?
We haven't spoken specifically about that in the last 2 meetings of undergraduate, simply because of the 2 proposals that are being brought to the table. They've kind of been the attention hog for all of our time. But I can actually find out about that. There was a meeting today. There's going to be another one next week. So.
Cool.
Any other questions? All right, guys. Thanks.
Alright, now we'll move on to our actual legislation for the night. Just a recap for anyone that doesn't remember or for new members. This is how the procedure goes. I'm going to give the floor to the sponsor of the bill. We can discuss, debate. You have to move to discuss, and a second is required. And then once the discussion is finished, you have to move to vote. Any second is required. I believe one proposal is amending the Constitution tonight, so that will require a 2/3 passage. but other than that, simple majority. Okay, so, Nick, do you want to do this one? For the, oh, sorry, no, this one's Brennan, actually. Yeah, the next one is Brennan. Do you actually have them?
All right.
It's fine, just read it, you can sign it, and you can just.
All right, so, this is something that the cabinet, worked on, the past couple of weeks. So, whereas as specified in the
Can
Constitution
you
by,
explain it first? Just like explain what it is.
we're just,
Well,
adding
yeah, we're just filling the vacancy.
new, yeah, but he's not here, he's in New Orleans. So, whereas as specified in the Constitution or bylaws, the president has the right to appoint any full-time undergraduate student with the approval of the legislature to a vacant position, and whereas the appointment of qualified individuals to vacant seats will allow the organization to better carry out organizational responsibilities throughout the year, therefore be it resolved that Aaron Luby is appointed as the new programming senator.
Do we have a motion to discuss? Motion to vote? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, all opposed? All abstaining? Okay, in the opinion of the speaker, this motion is passed. All right, so Aaron is our new programming senator. All right, moving forward, we have another appointment, but this time it's in Nick's branch, so he can.
Alright, so basically, we actually haven't had a senator for this college, so it's just filling this vacancy. Whereas as specified in the Constitution and bylaws, the president has the right to appoint any full-time undergraduate student with the approval of the legislature to a vacant position, and whereas the appointment of qualified individuals to vacant seats will allow the organization to better carry out organizational responsibilities throughout the year, therefore be resolved that Kelly Donnelly is appointed as senator for the College of Health Sciences.
We have a motion to discuss.
Motion to vote.
To vote. Okay. All those in favor? All opposed? All abstaining? All right, in the opinion of the speaker, this motion is passed. Kelly is our new senator. She's also my roommate, and she's awesome. Okay, so now we have a real proposal, not that those weren't, but Gianna come up and talk about it.
Alright, so Nick and I worked on this proposal basically, as we discussed a lot last spring and a little bit last fall. Our setup for elections right now is that student affairs, there's 5 in the spring, and then there's 5 in the fall, and academic affairs, it's 7 in the fall. So basically what we discussed is how most of the time, academic affairs senators, the best time to meet with your dean is over the summer, and kind of the best time to transition is to talk to the person who you're replacing, which is easier in the spring than typically when they've graduated and they're gone coming up that next fall. So what we discussed was moving instead, having those 7 academic in the spring and all 10 student affairs in the fall. Also, it's much easier for in the fall when everyone's like, what position does what? It's very easy to explain. Student affairs is more general, and then academic obviously represents your school. And in addition, typically freshmen aren't running for those positions anyways because they're not really involved in their colleges. So it wouldn't be something that we would have to worry about freshmen not really being involved with. And we still have those vacancies for freshmen with the student affairs senators in the fall. So it kind of solves all those problems, and it's kind of like a simple switch. So I'm gonna read the legislation, and since it's a change to the Constitution and bylaws, it has to pass by 2/3. And I also highlight it, it's in our Google Drive, and I can share it with anyone. We're running late on time, I don't wanna go through every single point, but I highlighted everywhere it would have to be changed, and kind of just specifying the 10 in the fall, 7 in the spring. So, whereas, as specified in the Constitution and bylaws, the Chief Justice has the right to propose any constitution or bylaw reform. And whereas, the academic affairs senators are elected in the fall, and student affairs senators are elected in both semesters. And whereas, academic affairs senators are not granted enough time in the fall semester to effectively carry out their duties. And whereas, it will be necessary to have all colleges represented by an active academic affairs senator in order to provide representation of the college's students. And whereas the elections caucus decided those positions would benefit from the spring election, therefore be it resolved that the 7 academic affairs senators shall be elected in the spring and 10 student affairs senators shall be elected in the fall. And be it further resolved that all vacancies shall be appointed at the nearest convenience of the incoming cabinet. And be it further resolved that these changes to the Student Government Association bylaws and constitutions shall take place immediately, resulting in a reformed election for spring semester 2019.
So if you are running in the elections this spring, this is an important resolution for you to consider, so do we have a motion to discuss? Think, second, yeah.
Is there gonna be some sort of provision that ensures that freshmen will have a shot at student affairs in the fall? Like, is there gonna be a certain number of designated senators?
Yeah, it's already in the Constitution that the 5 that are appointed in the fall anyways, 2 of them have to be freshmen, so
Okay.
that's gonna stay the same.
So it'll still just be 2?
But then if they do still win by majority over, they can still, if there's 3 or 4 that win by majority, they still win by majority. Anything else?
Yeah, I just want to speak in favor of legislation, obviously. But as a 2-term academic affairs senator for Lerner College, I found that it was difficult at times to transition. I've never met my predecessor, so I was never given any type of understanding on my roles or responsibilities. There was no one to tell me, this is what I've learned, these are the people to talk to if you need to get something done. And all major leadership roles often have a period where there is a transition. SGA does their elections for their cabinet for a reason in the spring so that they can transition out the seniors. In the Learner Advisory Board, they do it. In my fraternity, Alpha Kappa Psi, we do it. And, I think it's important to have a period where you can learn from your predecessor and you can go into the year fully ready. And also as somebody who ran for this position as a freshman and lost, had I won, I don't think I would have known what I was doing because I had no classes even in the Lerner College as a business major.
Well, I would like to add that as a freshman who ran and actually was appointed, got elected, I would say that I agree with what you said. There was a rough transition since, I couldn't speak to the former academic affairs senator, and up to a period that was, maybe it was actually Kevin over here because he was in the engineering college, but I was wrong. So just saying that this would definitely be much better for the future senators.
Thank you.
So if we're talking about like transitions, doesn't it also make sense to just elect all senators in the spring so that like outgoing student affairs senators can help the new people transition in?
But then there would be no way for a freshman to get elected and to run.
Yeah, I mean, you could leave a few for the fall.
True.
I don't know, we've discussed this a lot.
Yeah,
To speak to the point, I think that when it comes to student affairs, a lot of the times you are all working together as a group. You have a shared drive, you guys are in the same branch, you're working on proposals in unison and in tandem. When it comes to academic affairs senators, you are left to stand on your own. A college of engineering cannot really help a business. But a lot of our things do not rely. So at the end of the day, you're one person kind of going in this by yourself. When you're a student affairs senator, you have 10 people to lean on, and the odds that all 10 lose or all 10 are brand new, I think are extremely low to impossible. So there would definitely be time for transitional phase.
And also, it's just good to have 2 different elections. One, it's like free PR for us. It's another way to get SGA out there, get more people involved. Another round of like recruiting people, finding people that we might not have found at the end of the last semester. So I feel like it's a good opportunity that we have 2 different elections because it's 2 different opportunities for people to kind of find their place.
I second that.
I'll just say that, not to give my opinion on the bill, but last year, when this was first discussed, the review incorrectly believed that we were moving all elections to the spring, and they were very angry and did not like that idea at all and thought it was very undemocratic that we weren't including any freshmen. So that's just, if they are the word of the people, that would be something to take into account.
Any other questions, comments?
Motion to vote.
Okay. All those in favor of this bill, please signify by raising your hand. Alright, all opposed? All abstaining? Alright, in the opinion of the speaker, this motion is passed. We will now have all academic affairs senators elected in the spring. Okay, so clap it up. Alright, only one announcement. If you have not had a one-on-one with Kevin or I, there's only 2 days left this week, so I'm doing them all day tomorrow, Thursday. You're doing them Saturday.
I'm going Friday and Saturday.
Kevin is doing them Friday and Saturday, so please sign up, they're mandatory. If you don't sign up, you don't have a one-on-one, that is a strike against you. I think some people already have some strikes, and we are not afraid to kick you out of SGA. Not to sound mean, but there's a lot of people that want to be in this organization, and we're really trying to do some good stuff this semester. So we will send out that spreadsheet again, one more time, just so you have it. And open floor, any questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, I just have one more thing. Anybody who is like doing anything, whether it's like Friends for Friends, you dance, anything like that, and you have, you're at an event with, you know, you want to take pictures or whatever, shoot those over to me or any of the PR senators, and we'll get the posted on the Instagram story. So any PR is good PR.
Sounds good. All right. And that will conclude our Senate meeting tonight. So go home, do your homework. Leave. Thanks for coming. Mom's in now.
Knocked it out of the park with this on the review. I mean, it wasn't you who wrote it.
I'll take
I
the-
think
I'll
it's
take
also
the-
still recording. At the point, at this point, like, people knows that there's not.